What's up, guys? Welcome to Mass Effect Talks once again. It's been such a long time since I did Mass Effect Talks, but it's still here. It hasn't gone away. There's still so many topics that I have to talk about, and pretty much I have to finish the races. I got the only races that I need to finish are the Elcor, the Volus, the ancient races, and what I'm going to be doing today are the Leviathan race. I wanted to do the Elcor and the Volus first, but since Leviathan has been very recent and it's still pretty fresh in my mind, and a lot of people want to know more about it right now, opposed to like later, I decided to do the Leviathan today, and then next, whenever I do another Mass Effect Talks, I'll do the Elcor and the Volus. I did a lot of research, and I'm pretty much going to be talking about the Leviathan as a race, and the Leviathan, the history of it, and how it ties to Mass Effect, and how it ties to the Reapers, and the ending of Mass Effect 3, how it ties to it with the catalyst and all that. The biology of the Leviathan is an ancient aquatic race. Once there were more Leviathans, right now it's kind of unknown where they are, how many were left during the actual DLC. We saw 3, but we're not sure how many are actually still living. The Leviathan did say that there were other of its race in different areas of the galaxy that were hiding, and that he or it was their progeny. So we don't know how many are left, but they could survive outside of the water, so they're not like your typical fish or something like that. This brings me to another, because not too much is known about the Leviathans. A lot of speculation and that kind of thing, not only with fans, but also in the universe. The teams were investigating a lot on Leviathan, and some of them came up with the Leviathan using their enthralls during their time to create means for them to leave for space travel, enhance themselves cybernetically, kind of like the Hanar, so that they could not only withstand space travel, but also be able to breathe outside of water and that kind of thing. And also allowing them to use element 0 to travel through space and breathe the air with the use of filtration systems. And it's possible that they probably even enhance themselves with biotic amplifiers. The Leviathans are actually considered to have, or they are considered to have higher advancements in technology than even the Reapers during their time. Now, Leviathan is just a name that we put on them, or humans put on them, or so organics, current organics that have studied these creatures have called them Leviathan. There is no record of what the actual race's name is, what they're called, that nobody has ever actually found what they're called. And the biggest reason is because nobody knew about them. They were considered to be the apex race, which means the high, like in a hierarchy, the highest point of the galaxy during their time for many years, and they were worshipped by lesser races, or by, compared to them, they were lesser. And they were also enthralled, so they were indoctrinated. This was a very primitive form of indoctrination. Like Leviathan states in the DLC that the Reapers kind of perfected it to what we now know what indoctrination is. But the Leviathans have a very similar form of mind control to the Thorian and the Rachni, because the Rachni, they don't indoctrinate people, but they do have the queen has a way of like communicating mentally with the other arachni, and tells them what to do and all that. So Edie explains that this is more of a type of organic quantum entanglement communication. It's similar to the arachni. Leviathan can communicate telepathically with other species, and it could mind control other species as well. So during its time, it did these creatures would take lesser species of that time and enthrall them so that they could serve the Leviathan's needs, since the Leviathan is kind of limited in its form when it comes to doing things, because it looks like a cuttlefish. It needed slaves, pretty much, that were more capable in doing things in a more practical way. They have 2 sets of 3 eyes. The Reaper form was taken from the Leviathan. The group that was assigned to investigate the Leviathans was the Task Force Aurora, that was set up pretty much by Hackett, which was set up to investigate rumors and legends that were tied to the Reapers, to know more about, maybe finding a way how to kill the Reapers and that kind of thing. Task Force Aurora was led by Garrett Bryson. They started to investigate the Leviathan Abyss, which was a corpse, which later they didn't know what it was. They figured that it was a spaceship, like a sentient ship that had been destroyed, and it was just a corpse. And they named it the Leviathan Abyss because it was in the Diths system. But it turns out that this corpse was a Reaper, and this is what got them interested, because they're like, what killed this Reaper? The corpse disappeared after some time, making Batarians, which, were the research team that actually found this, Batarians kind of doubt it afterwards that it even existed and that kind of thing. So, Task Force Aurora started to investigate more into it, and they realized that the real Leviathan was something else completely. It was the thing that actually killed the Reaper. It wasn't the corpse. So that's when Anne Bryson and all that, they started to notice some activity happening. In one of the planets was where you got to go to the planet that was like Asari and Vorcha controlled, at least in the past. The Asari left, and then the Vorcha just killed themselves, and there's just some groups of Vorcha now on the planet. It was that arid world called Namakli, and that's where they ended up finding those relics, those spherical artifacts. The thing with the Leviathan is that during its time, before the Reapers, it noticed that its enthralls would create synthetics, so that the synthetics could help the enthralls in specific tasks to make it easier for them. So they would create synthetics, and eventually the synthetics would end up going against their creators and wiping them out. So the Leviathan was like, this seems to happen a lot. Like, what's going on? Maybe it's a cycle. It's a cyclical type of thing. We've got to find out a way to finish this, a way to stop this. Organics create synthetics, and then the synthetics end up taking over the organics. How do we stop this? Let's create a synthetic. So it's kind of like a never-ending cycle, which kind of begs the question, like, what was the Leviathan even thinking? Because it's like, it went completely against the actual idea. It was like, okay, organics create synthetics, and then synthetics eventually go against the organics. So then the Leviathan creates a synthetic, an AI, thinking what? That it was not going to go against them? So the Leviathans create the AI, which is now known as the Catalyst. What this AI was created to do was to preserve life at all costs, to find the solution to this problem. to see if there was a way to prevent from all organic life from being completely wiped out by synthetics. So this AI started to gather data to see what the solution was going to be, and it created this AI created minions kind of thing, things that would help it gather data. For example, the collectors, very, very similar to the collectors. It created that, and these minions would go around the galaxy collecting data, collecting genetic information from organics and all that to find what the best solution was. So the AI, the catalyst, pretty much comes up with the solution to this problem, to chaos in this case being organics creating synthetics and synthetics taking over organics. And the way that it found the solution was the only way to preserve life is to harvest it. So what it did was it took the Leviathan, because the Leviathan at that time was the apex race. It was the highest race creature in the galaxy during that time. So it took that race and pretty much turned it into the first Reaper. The harvesting of the catalyst and of the Reapers, what that does is it preserves life. It preserves the knowledge of that race. It preserves the memories, everything of that race. So it's kind of the AI, the AI's reasoning is that's the only way to preserve organic life, is to preserve it ourselves, kind of like to put it into kind of like getting the whole of this race, of each race, getting the whole of it at its prime level, at its ultimate prime, and preserving it as it is. And so what it does is it gets that race as a whole, preserves it, destroys that race, and preserves its knowledge and everything, acquired genetics, all of it, and turns it into a Reaper with the form of the Leviathan. So the first Reaper took the form of the Leviathans, and it's now what we call Harbinger. So the Leviathan's plan in creating the catalyst, this AI, turned against them, just like it has always been. Before the Leviathan even created the AI, synthetics were already going against their creators. So it's kind of like, shame on you, Leviathan, for not getting the whole idea here that eventually your AI that you were going to create was going to go against you. So that's exactly what happened. The AI went against the Leviathan, but not as a rogue AI, but as doing its job. That's what the solution was. So when this happened, just like every other cycle, or at least the other cycle that we know that has been that was harvested by the Reapers, is the Protheans. That's the one that we've looked at very much. There's been others, but the one that we know more about is the Protheans. So that's pretty much what happened with the Leviathans. When the Protheans were harvested, there was a group of them that survived. There was a group of them that hid on Ilos, the scientists. And that's exactly what some of the Leviathans did. Some of them went into hiding. Some of them got away. They hid. But instead of actually doing something, like the Protheans that had survived, trying to find a way to stop them and trying to let the next cycle know about the Reapers and to do something about it, the Leviathans just hid and just didn't say anything. They're just like, dude, let's just like stay down here and let's just chill down here. It's nice. Species that were left behind, like lesser species, they still controlled them. The Leviathan, they would control them, and these species were the ones that would place these spherical orbs, the artifacts, in different places of the galaxy, so that the Leviathans could always keep tabs on what was going on, and mostly to double check, to keep track of its discovery. So kind of like saying, is anybody aware of us yet? No, not yet. Okay, everything's all good. So that's why when the Project Aurora starts to find these artifacts, that's why Leviathan starts to enthrall them, to indoctrinate them through the orb, because this orb can communicate through with Leviathan through this QEC, right? This quantum entanglement communication. It was a communication device from the Leviathan to whoever is around that orb. So if someone finds it and they're like, "Ooh, it's this. Let's start investigating. What is this?" Oh, blah, blah. The Leviathan immediately sends a message, to enthrall them and stop them from investigating, so that they don't find out that the Leviathan even exists. So that's why these artifacts are all over the place, so that they could prevent people from investigating Leviathan, from even getting the idea that the Leviathans exist, and for also keeping tabs on what the Reapers are doing, and making sure that the Reapers don't find out that the Leviathans are still there. Now, while I'm talking of these spherical artifacts, some people have asked me if the spherical artifact that you find in the DLC, the Mass Effect 2 DLC, the Firewalker DLC, where you get the Hammerhead, if that spherical or that spherical artifact that you find at the very end, the very last mission of that DLC, if it's probably one of these orbs. But it's not, because these orbs, the one that you find in the Firewalker DLC, was a Prothean artifact. It wasn't these kinds of orbs. This Prothean artifact was very similar to the one that you find on Elatania in Mass Effect 1. The one that would give you like visions of the past, of Protheans observing cavemen. So pretty much what the Leviathan does is exactly what the Reapers do. It hid, and it completely wiped out all trace of its existence, while still enthralling other species to do its bidding, kind of, in the shadows. And that's pretty much what the Reapers do as well. They do their thing, and then they leave and wipe out any evidence of their existence, so that nobody even presumes that there's anything known as a Reaper, so that they don't expect what's coming, while indoctrinating people. The planet where Shepard encounters Leviathan is 2181 Despoina. What Leviathan was doing to prevent from entering and then leaving with any possible information, it would send any ships that would enter the planet would get blasted by this pulse that was released by a beacon, or by Leviathan pretty much, to disable ships, all kinds of ships, and eventually the Leviathan would mind control whoever was there. And that's what happened to the crew, one of the crews of a ship that you read some of the logs. They land, they crash there, and they don't know what's going on or anything, but they eventually become Leviathan's enthralls, and that's how nobody finds out about Leviathan. Leviathan pretty much cuts all possibilities before they even have the possibility of finding it. So when Shepard talks to this Leviathan, the Leviathan has a very interesting way of communicating with Shepard, or with anybody. So it kind of like Shepard is in the mind of the Leviathan, or the Leviathan is in the mind of Shepard, and the way that Shepard even makes any sense of it is by seeing things that make sense to him, and things that associate Leviathan as well. So and the way that that works is that's why you only see people that are talking to Shepard, like Anne Bryson, Garneau, or at least the guy that was posing as Garneau. These people that had been enthralled by Leviathan are the ones that are communicating with Shepard, because they have that link with Leviathan and Shepard. So Shepard, that's the way that he could make sense of it all, is, and Leviathan as well, to communicate with Shepard. They're using the link that they both have. And the Leviathan pretty much tells Shepard exactly all of this, how this all happened, how they created the AI, how they had been the apex race ancient times, and how the AI betrayed them, saying that Shepard is pretty much an anomaly, and that the Reapers are or consider him as a threat, because he took down Sovereign, he took down the Collectors, that kind of thing, so that the Reapers consider him a threat. So Leviathan finds him very interesting and saying, I need to know more about you, I need to know why.